Today, finally, a team of 14 nuclear safety inspectors arrived at Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It took weeks to negotiate safe passage for the team, and their arrival is not a minute too soon. There have been several potentially catastrophic failures at the plant in recent weeks, which Ukrainian and Russian forces are blaming on each other. The inspectors have their work cut out for them to safeguard Europe's largest nuclear power plant that happens to be in the middle of a war zone. We have this report.
Experts from the International Atomic Energy Agency being shown around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant by Russian energy officials. On Thursday, they made a first tour of the key areas they wanted to see. With Ukraine and Russia blaming each other for shelling near the facility, the agency's head said the physical integrity of the plant had been violated, and he emphasized that their mission is far from over.
We are not going anywhere. The IAEA is now there, is at the plant, and is not moving. It's going to stay there. We're going to have a continued presence there at the plant with some of my experts.
The head of the power company that runs the plant said they are working to restart the reactor and expressed hope that the UN mission could help.
We believe it would be like main purpose of this mission for us is just to demilitarize the territory of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and surrounding area. If this mission helps to do that, then it will be successful.
In the short term, the IAEA plans to keep a group of experts at the plant for the next several days to continue their assessment of the damage already done to the facility. A dangerous, unprecedented mission in the midst of a war zone.
Well, my first guest tonight has worked as a safety inspector at nuclear power plants around the world, including at Chernobyl and Fukushima. He's also been an advisor in science and technology to the U.S. State Department. Mr. Najmedin Mishkati is an engineering professor at the University of Southern California. He joins me tonight from California. Professor, it's good to have you on the program. I'd like for us to start by listening to what the head of the IAEA said today after he and his team had made their first walk through at the Zaporizhzhia plant in Ukraine. Take a listen.
I worried, and I will continue to be worried about the plant until we have a situation which is more stable, which is more predictable. It is obvious that the plant and the physical integrity of the plant has been violated several times, by chance, by deliberation.
So he sounds, Professor, like he is worried. He has reason to be worried. When he says the physical integrity of the plant has been violated, how serious is that? What do you hear in those words?
Thank you for having me. First of all, I would like really to salute and commend Director General Rafael Grossi and IAEA team for doing this mission at personal risk to their safety. They are heroes. I think what the Director General said is about reading between the lines. He talked about the physical infrastructure, because they had, if you remember, loss of off-site power for a few hours last week, and that plant has been under shelling. What I didn't hear from him in this clip that you broadcasted is the state of the mind of the operators and the safety culture and human performance due to duress, stress, and they're basically working at the gunpoint. And I am extremely worried, as Director General said, about the safety of these plants.
Well, Professor, based on what we do know about the situation inside the plant, I mean, we've been told that you have Ukrainian workers who are carrying out their jobs at gunpoint by Russian forces. So when you hear that, how concerned are you that we could have an accident at this nuclear power plant, an accident that would happen by human error?
That's a very good question. That's precisely my worry. Because if you look at the 3 major nuclear power plant accidents in our history, Three Mile Island in United States, 1979, Chernobyl in former Soviet Union, Ukraine, 1986, and Fukushima, 2011 in Japan, both Daiichi and Daini. 2 out of the 3 of these nuclear accidents that caused some major disruption, they were caused by internal factors, not external factors. By internal factors, I mean human performance, safety culture related issues, and human error. And this condition that these operators they have been subject to that since March 2nd of the Russian invasion is very dire, and that increases the human error probability by many folds: fatigue, stress, and then uncertainty. Plus that all the 9 traits of healthy safety cultures unfortunately have been violated, like the questioning attitude, environment for respectful work environment. All of these have been violated by this invasion.
And if I hear you correctly, Professor, it is true. We've had 2 nuclear disasters in the world, the results of human error. And then at Fukushima, what we saw was an earthquake and then a tsunami, a natural disaster causing then a nuclear disaster. With the Ukraine situation, Zaporizhzhia, we could have a situation where the workers make a mistake, but for the first time in history, we also have the situation that missiles or shelling outside could penetrate the walls of a reactor, for example, and cause a meltdown. This is a first, isn't it? There's not a guidebook for what inspectors are supposed to do, is there?
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. This is the added value. We have this external risk because of shelling. The shelling, the containment dome of the 6 reactors may protect them against the internal reactors sitting in the containment dome. They may be protected by the containment dome. But we have huge 6 spent fuel pools that they require constant circulation, and they are not protected by containment dome. And then on the other side, the people, I always consider human operators of nuclear plant as the first and last layer of defense of humanity. These people are subject to tremendous stress, very awful working condition, and their families in the city of Energoatom, they are under tremendous stress. And I really don't know the state of the mind of these people, and I hope Director General Grossi and his team, they can get to that.
Professor, before we run out of time, these inspectors, they have the way that their own lives are on the line right now, plus the lives of millions of other people are at stake right now. I mean, what would be your message to them?
I wish them God's speed, due diligence in their work. I'm sure that they do. However, we may be asking too much from International Atomic Energy Agency, which its core is a technical organization. The report that they will be issuing is going to be technical, but it will be many layers of political things attached to that. I wish them God's speed. I'm sure they do a due diligence. But on the other hand, I think what we need is a little bit above and beyond International Atomic Energy Agency, which is in the domain of UN Security Council.
Professor Najmedin Mishkati, we appreciate your time and your valuable insights tonight. Thank you. All right, we want to pull in now Vadim Chumachi, is head of the laboratory at Ukraine's National Research Center for Radiation Medicine. It's good to have you with us. Tell me, what should these inspectors be doing right now? What's the first duty for these inspectors?
Good evening. I'm not familiar with their particular plan, but I can estimate the possible actions of them. So first of all, they need to inspect the technical condition of the nuclear power plant in general, and most important, technical condition of the radioactive materials there. I mean fuel assemblies, both spent fuel and fresh fuel, because they are pose some danger, or I would say. And it's very important that also they relieve some psychological pressure on the personnel of the nuclear power plant, because they're working for almost 6 months under gunpoint from Russian forces, which is also not in favor of security.
Well, Mr. Chumachi, you bring up a good point. The employees of the plant have been under tremendous pressure. These inspectors, they're also under pressure now, right? Because they perhaps are the only thing that stands between millions and millions of lives and a radioactive meltdown.
Exactly, they are brave people. I really appreciate their courage and their motivation to go there, because I know from the reports that it was not easy way today to get to the nuclear power plant. Indeed.
We know that iodine tablets have been distributed across that part of Ukraine. What is your biggest concern right now? I mean, what would be the most acute danger in your opinion?
Actually, this potassium iodine pellets, pills are good for extreme scenario, which is could be much like Fukushima scenario, when electric supply for the pumps which are cooling the reactors stops, the core starts to melt down, then some hydrogen or chemical explosion, and then release to the atmosphere. And since at least 2 reactors are still operating, they contain a lot of various radionuclides, including iodine. And iodine has a peculiarity that it is very biologically accessible and very mobile. So once it is released, it can very easily get to the organism of people. And then it has a property of accumulation in thyroid gland, which might create high doses. And these iodine pills, they block thyroid and prevent from this intake and accumulation.
Mr. Chumachi,
but this is a really worst-case scenario. It's not. I don't believe it's very likely.
Well, we certainly hope that the worst-case scenario will not become true. But in the event of a radiation leak, even if we were to have a meltdown, in your opinion, is the medical infrastructure already in place around Zaporizhzhia, but around that entire part of Ukraine to deal with mass exposure to radiation?
It's a very good question. So actually, we are considering such scenario for quite a while. And for instance, you mentioned these pills. They are already distributed and they will be available once they are needed. But the problem is that, the distribution of radioactive materials depends on wind and atmospheric conditions. And if wind blows to eastern direction, to the territories which are occupied by invaders, Ukraine doesn't have control. It cannot help population. So that's the main problem.
Vadim Chumachi, head of the laboratory at Ukraine's National Research Center for Radiation Medicine. Mr. Chumachi, we appreciate your time and your insights tonight. Thank you.